Good evening. This is Jack from Chartered Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for Sunday, the 15th of December. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing and learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. Right. It's only a few more days till Christmas. I'm not expecting anything particularly interesting to happen, certainly on the downside, but we could see some more action here. So far, we broke this rising support trend line here, which was quite a nice one on ES. No current divergence. We've got a little weak sell signal on the daily chart on the RSI 5. Not sure how seriously to take that. And this looks like a flag forming, but it does look like, unless this is a triangle, it does look as though we're probably at a lower low below 6100 or at 6100. But this looks like a bull flag, likely before retesting the high. Not the same on NQ, which of course has been making new all-time highs. We've been seeing quite a sizable decline on the RTY chart. Could this be a flag? Maybe. I've drawn in this trend line here, but it's not really where I'd expect the trend line to come from, which would be here. But I drew it in just because it was a nice three-touch trend line. But at the moment, this could well still be a flag setting up a retest of the high, but it has been going lower than I expected. Sorry, I just updated the ES, NQ, and RTY and YM to March today, and I noticed that I didn't put in that there's a 60-minute buy signal fixed here, which there is. On YM, again, kind of looks like a flag and a pretty nice looking resistance trend line there. So if we see a break up, and we saw a couple, I haven't marked them in here on the updated chart, but there are a couple of failed weak 60-minute buy signals here. We don't have one of those at the moment, but at the moment this is compressing, and sooner or later we're going to see a bounce, and it's going to break that trend line, and we may see a retest of the high from there. That would be the natural thing to see, I think. And given that we're moving into holiday tape, and the rest of December it leans fairly bullish, or at least it does until Christmas. I'm not really expecting to see anything particularly interesting on the downside. Okay, DAX. DAX, this is a potential level top. Not really seeing any particular reason to think that we would play out to the downside here, but I think any real excitement is likely to be in January and February. And ESDX, we've almost come back up and retested this high, and we're going to probably retest that high soon. Okay, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. On ES, you can see we've got a weak RSI 5 sell signal fix. We've got the same thing on SPX. Not sure how seriously to take that, but we have had other weak sell signals here which have delivered. This one here delivered very nicely. Not a lot to be going on really, but it could deliver. And there are targets to the downside. We could test the daily middle band. And equally, we could test this. I was talking in my my post on Friday about the possibility we might get down to this trend line here. There's not a really strong case for reaching that, and it's not really quite the time to do it. But we could see a couple more days of downside, I think, before likely we go up on holiday action. On the hourly chart, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal that's reached possible near miss target. This looks like a flag forming. I would say that if this trend line is right, and it's actually a pretty nice trend line, then we could be heading down to this rising support here on this shorter-term trend line here, which is 59.50 at the moment. That would still require going down 100 points. I'm slightly skeptical about managing that. I've drawn in this here as a potential triangle, in which case, if this is a triangle, this is A, B, C, we'd do a D, partial retracement, and then go back up and retest high, which might well be the natural thing to do. All right, looking at the Qs. We've got a weak RSI 5 sell signal fixed there too. We're slightly over the obvious trend line resistance here. So you can see that here, and this was a pretty nice looking trend line here. This could be a bearish overthrow, but again, the timing seems strange for that. We've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed here. Might see a little more downside, and there's obviously quite a lot of gaps, which I've put in the major ones below, which we could fill in if there is a decline. But I'm skeptical at this time of year about seeing it. I think we're going to see a lot of excitement over the next couple of months, but I'm not really expecting to see much in the next couple of weeks. On Dia, we had a sell signal, RSI 5 sell signal, which has made target, and we're below the daily middle band. This does potentially open more downside. And I was talking about that in my post on Friday. We've got a weak RSI 5 buy signal fixed and a weak RSI 14 buy signal brewing on the hourly. Not sure how significant that is to be taken, but we do have an obvious trend line target down here, which would be in about the 431 area. On the 15-minute chart, we've got an RSI 14 buy signal fixed, and that's quite a nice one. And we've got a strong resistance trend line, not quite as nice as the one on YM, but pretty nice. And this could be a flag. We made the double top target. There's no strong reason for this to go lower, but I'm a bit concerned about the fact it's below the daily middle band and that IWM is also below the daily middle band. And if we look at IWM, that's quite a long way below the daily middle band. And we've got a beautiful double top here. Again, the timing is wrong. But we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed here, and we could see more downside here. But I'm thinking if we do see more downside, we might see a couple of days. And then likely we see holiday action unless that is overcome by the news. Now, of course, we've got the incoming administration. We've got a lot of talk about tariffs, which could be huge and have a very sizable impact in quite a number of areas. And at the moment, it looks as though, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of news at the weekend about Trump saying that actually he's planning to use tariffs a lot and he's not going to be moved on it. And if so, that's going to make next year interesting, but I'd be surprised if it made this year that interesting. We will see how that goes. On the hourly chart, no current divergence on IWM, but obviously I've got an eye on this potential level top here. And on the 15-minute chart, we've got RSI 14 buy signal fix and an RSI 5 buy signal that's already made target. We did have a nice looking flag here, particularly on the RTY chart, and we've gone a bit below that. I'm wondering about it, and I'm wondering about the fact that we're below the daily middle band on both, and I'm wondering also about the fact that this tech rally, the latest move up from the low basically has been all tech. It's been dragging SPX with it, but really hasn't been sort of doing anything on Dow or IWM. All right, looking at DAX, a little bit of negative divergence. We're over the obvious trend line here, but there would be alternatives. I think if we go significantly higher, we'll just have to see where it lands and whether or not we can get a trend line out of that. On Nikkei, we saw a move above the daily middle band and we've seen a bit of a retracement, but this is making good progress. If we can get a decent upswing going, and the bands are already starting to expand, then I'm wondering, and I would love to see a retest of this high here at 42.4K. Just to mention, in terms of targets to the upside, if we do see a decent move to the upside, I do have a couple of big targets that I'm wondering about. This is the main one. On SPX, this nice looking channel resistance here, which I've got up in about the 6200, 6225 area at the moment. I'd love to see that made. We could do it, but I'm slightly skeptical. But it would be nice to see if we could manage it. And looking, I don't think we've got an obvious to target that on the Qs, but actually I've got a decent trend line here. It's not bad. It would be improved if we went up and hit it again. And this, I've got this currently at about 555. Dia has already hit it, although I do have another alternative above, but really it's the SPX one that I'm watching. And if we can get up to 6200, 6225 area, then we could test that trend line, and that would potentially start a bull flag forming or larger retracement that could last us for much of next year. We shall see how that goes. And I'll be writing more about it and writing more about what happens the year after presidential elections between now and the end of the year. All right, let's have a look at CL. Now, CL and NG, I've just rolled both of them a day or two early, I think, but I've just rolled both of them into February. And here we're getting to the top of the range here in this narrowing range that we've been doing. So this is sort of where I'd be looking for a decline unless we're going to break up out of it. So we'll see how that goes. I still have an open target down at a triangle target at 63.57, and I'll be looking at that on the daily chart. NG. I've rolled this into February and that's dropped it 18 cents. We've got another 32 cents or so at the current level natural downside in terms of gaps already priced in on the on NG, which tends to decline into the April period. I do have this potentially forming an inverted head shoulders, right shoulder, and the ideal right shoulder low for that would be in the 1.95 area. That would be potentially a very bullish pattern coming into next year. Let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. Right, on WTIC, this is the triangle. It broke down, had a target at 63.57, and it hasn't made it yet. I'm not seeing anything compelling saying it isn't going to make it. We're back over the 50 DMA, but the main resistance here is the 200 DMA, which I've got at 76. And if we, as long as we stay under that, or at least don't break it for long, we've seen a one move basically above it intraday over the last few weeks, but months. But really it's held. And as long as we hold this as resistance, I'm still expecting to see that 63.57. Possibly if we break over it, but very much so as long as we stay underneath it. And certainly I'm not seeing that anything that Trump's planning for next year is likely to be particularly bearish for oil, except for the potential of increased sanctions on Iran, which could take potentially 1 million or 2 million barrels a day off the world market. So watching that with interest, and there is potential for upside there. Certainly, but I'm thinking that would be later on in the year if we see it. Looking at natural gas, we've got this beautiful inverted head, part-formed inverted head and shoulders. Look at those touches of the neckline, 3.64, 3.64. And I would love to see a decline down into 1.95, ideally into the April area, which would be the natural low area, and then potentially then to start a move, which could be quite a big move actually, because if we then had a sustained break over 3.64, the target would be in about the 5.74 area, and that would be up here. On the bigger picture, that wouldn't be a huge move. This is the bigger picture. This is a small pattern on that bigger picture. But we've come down, we've tested the big support here. This would be a natural area to be starting moving up again, and I think we may well do that. And as you can see, this is a chart going back to 2000. We were testing some big support over the last couple of years. This would be a natural time to go up. We will see whether that is managed. All right, great. Let's have a look at metals. Now, GC, I was looking at this again today, and I found this beautiful rising wedge. And a lot of people have been asking me, is the low in on gold, and is it going to go up from here? And I've been saying it rather depends on the dollar. And I've got more to say about the dollar coming on. But what I would say is this is a very, very nice rising wedge, and we closed Friday testing support on that. I'm thinking the natural direction for this is to break and probably come back and retest this low, or at least break and retrace some of it. We will see. As we were hitting it, no current positive divergence. I'm leaning towards seeing a break soon, and as I'm leaning towards some upside on the dollar, that makes sense. We had a nice looking double bottom on silver. That's actually made its way back most of the way to the low already. Now, we've got a bit of positive divergence there, but I'm thinking it's not a huge leap to see this back retesting the lows. And I'll talk more about that on the RTH charts. On HG, I've got a little double top here I marked in, which is broken down and it's heading towards a target in the 4.12 area. If we were to come back and retest this low, then that could set up a very nice looking double top for a move up after that. So we shall see. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. Right, GC. GC, we have creditable effort coming back up here, but I'm thinking this could be, looking at this could be an ABC. So I'd be thinking in terms of a retest of this low here at 25.65, and I'll talk more about what the dollar might do to help this along. But we're testing the daily middle band at the moment, but if we go down, then I'm thinking 25.65, and this could be an ABC, potentially take us down to the 24.75 area, 2500 area. We'll see. No current divergence. On the bigger picture chart here, it looks pretty much the same. I've got potential trendline support here, but it's weak in the 2600 area. I've got a bigger support here, which is coming up towards that 24.75 area, and I'm wondering if we might come down and hit that. Let's have a look at silver. Silver, no current divergence. This could be a head and shoulders, but it's not a great head and shoulders. Not really. And the minimum target would actually be the start of the preceding trend would be here, and so the target would only be there anyway, and it's a bit oversized for it. But I am wondering if this might go lower, and I'm thinking this might get down to this ceiling, floor, the level here. If it sees a decent move, we will see. Looking at palladium. Palladium, I'm still wondering about a retest of this low, potentially second low of a double bottom. We've already got a double bottom on platinum, but it didn't break up, and we've now got a smaller double bottom after we've made a lower low. We're down in some decent support here, but at the moment I'm not seeing anything compelling to say that it's about to go up. HG, we're seeing a bit of a fail here. I am wondering about that retest of the low. That looks a bit different on this chart here. What are we doing here in terms of patterns? Do we need a retest of here for a second low of a double bottom? Not really. This could be a retest of 4.002 could set up a nice looking double bottom. This larger double bottom here is too large to be a double bottom, so I'm not really thinking that would be likely. But a retest of 4, set up a nice looking double bottom and take us up from there. That's on the cards potentially. Looking at GDX, nice retracement last week. We've got no current divergence. We had on Wednesday we had sell signal brewing on the 60-minute RSI 14, and that's played out and broken the rising support. GDXJ, if I drew in a rising support trend line from here, that would have broken as well. And again, we had a 60-minute sell signal, which has made target. I'm wondering if this might well need to go lower. And I have to say, on the metals generally here, I wasn't convinced that the low was in, and I'm not becoming any more convinced that the low is in. But a lot of this depends on the dollar. So let's have a look at that. So let's look at ZB first. ZB, we had a nice looking double bottom, and that is failing back towards the lows. The bigger picture was still downtrend. And I'll talk more about that on my TNX chart. Here on the dollar, I had a nice looking flag here, and that's broken up, and I'm expecting to see a retest of this high here in the 107.7 area. But again, more to say about that on the bigger picture chart, so let's have a look at that. Okay, DX. DX we've got on the daily chart, no current divergence, but nice flag which is broken up. On the USD chart here, we break through this rising support, but this has been a very, very steep rise up from just under 100. I'm leaning towards seeing a retest of 108.07, and I'm thinking it might go higher than that. On the bigger picture charts, I am wondering, well, I'm just saying, we had a very large uptrend here, but where is our reversal pattern? Now, I've seen some amazing moves to retest. I really thought that it was probably too late to retest the high, but I've seen some amazing moves to retest highs before, and I'm wondering if we might just retest this high here in 114.75 area. We're likely to see a pretty turbulent year next year on the dollar. I think the bigger picture is likely to be that it's going down over the next couple of years, but of course it can go down with much more structure if we come back up and retest this high. So we will see how it goes, but I am tossing that in as a possibility because we may be heading there. Looking at the weekly chart on TNX, TNX, we've got a flag here. It's broken up very slightly here. It was only very slightly, but the obvious target for that is a retest of this high here at 49.97. Now, you can see on the monthly chart here that we're not actually, this isn't particularly high in terms of bond yields. We could go higher. We could retest 49.97 and make a double top and go down from there. But if we are going to see a lot of tariffs next year, it's going to push up inflation. Inflation, of course, is the Fed would likely react by that by pushing up interest rates. And if they didn't, the market would likely push up interest rates in the way that it has been doing recently. So this looks very, very much like a flag. It's a nice flag. It's this flag. And it's a peach. It broke up slightly here, and it looks as though it's about to follow through up to the upside. The obvious target for that would be 49.97. And at that point, we would have an inflection point where we could turn down, or potentially it could go higher. And if it did go higher, then potentially it could go quite a lot higher. By historical standards, this is not high, and I've got a potential IHS here, although I don't like it particularly, with the target here up in the 8 area. Now, I'm not saying I'm I like this pattern. I don't particularly, but it's not a bad looking IHS, apart from the fact the shoulders are a bit small, and it doesn't really look like an inverted head and shoulders, a classical one to me. So it's not a high quality inverted head and shoulders, but I'm throwing it in there. I do have a possible target in the 81 area, and this does look an awful lot like a flag. I'm expecting to see a retest of 49.97, and then we will see a decision made there. On the in the short term, no current negative divergence, so I have to say it's looking a bit toppy. Well, it looks like it needs a retracement on the hourly RSIs. So we may well see that, but I'm thinking chances of reaching 45.05 after that are pretty good. And after that, I think we may well go up and make the main target at 49.97. All right, let's have a look at the KC chart. Not much to see on the individual currency pairs at the moment. KC, now there's two things to consider here, and there's one that we've not got an awful topping pattern here, and we've got negative divergence on the daily chart. The other thing is that there's been significant crop failures in Brazil of coffee crops. That would tend to push prices up. So I'm thinking we may well see more upside. I've got more to say about these on the daily charts. SB, this is a long bullish consolidation, which should result in a retest of this high here in the 23.65 area when it eventually breaks up, which it's not been doing for 3 months now, pretty much. CC has gone higher again, went through the obvious trendline resistance. I think this could go significantly higher still. We will see. We did see with a big move down to the 6,000, but I think before that we've been up at about 12, 14,000. I think we were probably retesting that high. Would that be making the second high of a double top? Definitely not. Not unless the target was 0, which I think is most unlikely because people like chocolate. So we shall see. It's but nonetheless, we could go back up and retest those highs again. CT, we've got possible double bottom forming here. Would need to go a little lower if that was going to be decent quality. No current divergence on ZW. Nice looking double bottom here, showing no sign of breaking up so far. Corn has had a good move to the upside and is pulling back. This looks like a bull flag forming. We've got a weak 60-minute buy signal fixed. Almost failed last week, but didn't. It does look like a nice looking, though steep bull flag at the moment. Looking at soy, I'm got to say this pattern setup would be much improved by a retest of this low here at 975, and I'm thinking we may well get that. And I have to say, with wheat looking fairly weak as well, we will see. All right, lumber. Lumber has continued down. This does not look like a bull flag, but it doesn't really look much like anything else either. There's a head and shoulders here I could draw in, but if we would already have made the target on that. We are seeing a little bit of positive divergence. I am wondering if we might see a rally here soon. On live cattle, we have gone higher, but we've back tested, broken resistance, and we're going back up to retest the high. I'm not seeing anything bearish on this chart, but we will get some 60-minute negative divergence when we retest that high, which we haven't done yet. And we've got a possible double top there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it just continue higher. On lean hogs, this looks like a bull flag forming, although it's not a very well formed bull flag. We will see how it goes. It's but I'm quite liking this breaking up into at least a retest this high and very possibly continuing higher from there. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts on KC, and you can see the daily RSI 14 sell signal that I was looking at on the coffee chart, and there's a potential level top here that's not great quality. I'm skeptical, in all honesty. We did come back. We came back. We broke up from the channel that it had been in. We came back and back tested the broken channel, and then went higher. I'm leaning towards the upside with crop failures in the mix as well. I'm not seeing an awful lot that looks convincingly bearish on the chart. And the RSI 14 sell signal is only a potential till it fixes. And mainly, I'd be watching the RSI 5 buy and sell signals anyway. Sugar, long retrace. Could this be a bull flag? Yes, it could. You can see where that's coming from here. So this is only really retraced about 50%. This very much looks like a bullish consolidation. That's probably because it is. On CC, this looks like we're making bold new highs, but actually we're only revisiting areas we've been last year. We had a couple of sell signals here. They failed. They were nice, and they failed. And I think this could easily go higher. Looking at wheat, nice looking double bottom. We've got an RSI 14 buy signal fix. I think this is going to see a decent rally sooner or later, but I'm wondering whether it might retest 540.20 first. On corn, got to say, this looks fairly impressive on the 60-minute chart, but I'm wondering whether this is all a bear flag. We will see if it is a bear flag, and there's a case of going up to 460 first, and then retesting the low afterwards. And I've got declining resistance currently at about the 465 area. Looking at soy, weak RSI 14 buy signal is fixed. Not done a lot so far. Not a lot of interest here at the moment, but if we were we'd set up a very nice nested double bottom if we were to come back from here and potentially have a pattern which could get us back up into the 1100 area. That would be nice to see. And actually, we've got a potential larger double bottom here, although it'd be improved if we'd actually done a full retest from 97340, which then, on a sustained break up over 1087, could potentially take us back up into the 1200 area. I think we're going to see a big rally on this at some point. It might need to wait until the dollar has finished to the upside, and I'm not convinced that's happened yet. Looking at cotton, no current divergence. Retest this low would give us possible RSI 5 buy signal break, and these do tend to be pretty good performers. We've got 5 on this chart, and all 5 may target, or the possible near-miss target here. So I'm liking that. I'm thinking a retest of this low could also give us potentially a very nice looking large double bottom. We will see how it goes, but again, it might need to wait until the dollar finishes going up. We shall see. So I'm liking. Right. Just going back to ES quickly. Let's have a look at SPX and just repeat. I'm liking the upside more than the downside here. We've seen a few. We saw a negative week, which was not something we see every December, really. But really, this looks like a bull flag for me. I'm more concerned about what's happening on IWM and on Dia. The breaks below the daily middle band, but those could be recovered. But I am thinking that if we were to see the same thing on SPX, then we might actually have some trouble growing. I'm expecting to see some support there. If not, then here, break both of those, and we potentially got some significant trouble here. But I would be surprised to see that happen in December. I'm thinking we might see a lot of market turbulence over the first 3 months of next year, but I'm really thinking that we've probably got a pretty safe run for the rest of December. That's the way I've been leaning, and I'm not seeing any strong evidence against that at the moment. We shall see. All right, great. All the weekly pivots are new, so if you go back over the recording, you can pick all those up, or you can have a look at my post today on Substack, which I linked on Twitter, which has got all the weekly pivots, new weekly pivots I've got for everything. So we shall see how it goes, and I'm thinking it might be an interesting week. If we're going to see downside next week, I'm thinking more in the first 2, maybe 3 days, and then after that, we just see a run up into Christmas. Normally, we would get that. Not every time, but normally. And I'm leaning towards seeing that until we see strong evidence to the contrary. All right, great. In that case, I will catch you guys again on Wednesday. Everyone take care.